Hi, class. I'm going to show you my sample scene study from the film Natural Born Killers. This is going to be a lot more thorough because I'm going to touch on both the elements of the cinematography and some literary elements as well. So, in your scene study, you could focus on one if you want. I believe it's supposed to be roughly around 10 minutes. I think that's what I said. But anyway, you want to provide some context for the movie, some background. So the synopsis here is two victims of traumatized childhood become lovers and psychopathic serial murders irresponsibly glorified by the mass media. And it stars Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis, I think, are the two main characters. A little bit of context here. So the film came out in 1994, and a book that I used to use in my 1A class, I actually think a couple of instructors still use it, was a book by Neil Postman written in the mid-1980s called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And basically, in that, Neil Postman, the writer, kind of prophesied what would happen once our dominant medium, right, changed from the written word to television, right? And since that has happened, of course, television has now become screen, right? Whether it be a laptop, an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple Watch, right? Screen time has basically become the dominant medium. Okay, and his whole point is, and you have to remember, television in the mid-1980s wasn't like it is now, right? There were 3 or 4 main channels in our area that were channel, the major networks, NBC, CBS, and ABC. I had to think about that one. 310 and 13, channel 31, 40, and 58. And Postman basically made the point or the claim that television's purpose was to be a form of entertainment, right? So anything that came through it would have to be entertaining. At one point in his book, he makes the argument that a president like President Taft, who was severely overweight, had scars from smallpox, had a pockmarked face and all this, he could not be elected president today because he would not play out on television. Now, I don't like to get into too much into politics, but we've had a president in the last few years that was a reality TV star. So I would argue, and that's all I'm going to say about that, is that particular president was another proof, right? Was more proof about Postman's prophecy. But anyway, one of the most successful rock and roll tours, this was before COVID, back when people actually attended concerts, was a tour called Zoo TV by the rock band U2. And at the time, the band went through a major change, a major identification change. They went from one of the greatest selling albums of all time, the Joshua Tree, to this total transformation, and where the lead singer Bono actually took on a persona, a new character called The Fly. And they kind of played with what Neil Postman was talking about. So they embark on this rock and roll tour, which was basically, I think the lead singer actually called it a contradiction, right? You go to a rock and roll show, and there's maybe 100, 200 television screens projecting random messages. I mean, there could be a sporting event that happened to be in the area where they were touring. The Gulf War was going on, I think, at the time during about 91 and 92, if I remember correctly, or maybe 92, 93. And the lead singer made the point is, nowadays, today, you can watch a war while eating your cornflakes, right? So think about what I said earlier about Postman, right? So everything that comes through television screen is entertainment. So they played with this idea, and they embark on this tour that was, years ahead of its time, and they kind of played with that idea, with that contradiction, right? What do, right? What's going on when you have 100,000 people gathered in a stadium, right? To kind of share, to become one in this intimate rock and roll show, but at the same time, you're distorting their attention with all these random messages. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that right now.
We will rock you. Welcome to Zoo TV. We're stealing from the thieves. I can't even say the bloody word. European decadence and the Las Vegas trash. This is what we want.
One of the things about rock and roll stars is they're bigger than life, they're bigger than the audience, they're almost intimidating. Well, this whole set is like that, right?
That's right, yeah.
Isn't that off-putting? Doesn't that kill intimacy, though?
It does, yeah, absolutely. But you look great.
We saw you were a normal guy.
You didn't like me when I was me, so I found somebody new. Old blue-eyed back. Never kissed a cowboy.
Hello, I'd like to leave a message for Alessandra Mussolini.
Do you think that the audience is getting something out of this?
Yeah, they're coming to a rock and roll gig and watching television. I think that, what more can you ask for?
I was a close friend of her grandfather's, and I just want to tell her she's doing a wonderful job filling the old man's shoes.
Okay, so a few kind of critical reviews now that you got a sense of what was going on in terms of how many felt about this new dominant medium. Right, so Natural Born Killers might have played even more like a demented nightmare if it hadn't been for the O.J. Simpson case. Now, there was the O.J. Simpson trial. He was accused of killing his wife and I think her lover. And that turned into a media frenzy, right? All the channels stopped as the cops were chasing O.J. Simpson and I think his friend, was it Ron? Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, it was on every channel, right, as they were being chased. Well, I say chased, but I think they were driving rather slow because, after all, he was a celebrity. But he was, they were pursuing him down, I believe, Interstate 5. In California. All right. But I really like this quote here, right? Maybe Stone meant his movie as a warning about where we were headed, but because of Simpson, it plays as an indictment of the way we are now. So it's almost like the critic here was suggesting that Stone's film, Natural Born Killers, could have been a prophecy in the same way that Postman's book was, Amusing Ourselves to Death. However, because of what was going on, right before the film came out, instead of a warning about what we would become. It was more like satire, right, of what we have become. We are becoming a society more interested in crime and scandal than anything else, more than in politics and the arts, certainly, and maybe even more than sports, unless crime is our new national sport. Again, right, now you could, as Bono, the lead singer of U2, said, you can have your bowl of cornflakes while watching war, right, on CNN. Okay, another critical review. Natural Born Killers is not so much about the killers, however, as about the feeding frenzy they inspire. During the period of their rampage, they are the most famous people in America, right? They've been glorified by the media, and the media goes nuts. There are Mickey and Mallory fan clubs. Mickey and Mallory are the two killers. And t-shirts. Tabloid TV is represented by a bloodthirsty journalist played by Robert Downey Jr. You probably know him as Iron Man and Sherlock Holmes, right? Who is so thrilled by their fame, he almost wants to embrace them. The people Mickey and Mallory touch in the law industry are elated to be handling the case. Everybody feels like a celebrity, right? And again, I think it could be a premonition, a foreshadowing of what's to come with social media, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, right? It gives them a brush with being a celebrity and a tantalizing whiff of the brimstone that fascinates some cops.